Welcome in, everybody. It's time once again for the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm Tom Callahan along with Robyn Leaño. This is part two of our series this week. 5 areas the Utah Hockey Club needs to address heading into their inaugural season. Come on and join us. We've got plenty more coming your way in just a moment.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And this is Locked On Utah Hockey Club, the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. We appreciate you being here. If you're listening in, wherever you may get your podcasts, we are available everywhere: SiriusXM, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you happen to find us. We appreciate you giving us a listen. Give us a like, a follow, a subscribe as well. And we will keep the great hockey talk coming your way. You can follow me on social media. I'm at Callahan on Air on Twitter and or X. And Robyn is at Robyn with a Y _Leaño. And you can follow her as well. And Robyn, once again, let's tell the folks where they can follow the cast itself.
Yep. The podcast on X, Instagram, and Threads is at LO_NHL Utah. For my Gen Z crowd, my fellow Gen Zers, you can follow us on TikTok as well at LO_Utah Hockey.
So you have no excuse, really, if you can't find us. I mean, I would say Google it, but I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. So I'm a social media lurker for the most part. And because of my day job working in hockey, I also have to kind of keep aware of all the trends and everything going on and everything like that. So, Robyn, I think it's interesting when Twitter melted down, everybody tried to figure out all these other places to go, like Mastodon and all that stuff. And then the dust settled and everybody just kind of went back to what they were doing. But it's really interesting to me to see like the Instagram and the TikTok and where we're going now with all this stuff and the ability to create content and be instant and get the feedback from the fans right away. I love that. I love the fact that we're touching people in so many different ways. We're able to get, our thoughts out there. They can give us their thoughts. I really have begun to appreciate that more and more. So I just want to say community interaction is fantastic.
Plus getting access to short form content too, right? And look, I already know, like everyone already knows one of the things I learned in radio, I learned when I was in radio was that the average listen span of a radio, even a listener on radio, is like just a few minutes, right? And then Gen Z, same kind of thing, right? Like as a one of the older side of Gen Z people, I know our attention spans are pretty short. So those that stick through it on this show, on our entire 30-minute shows, we really appreciate you guys. We love that you listen to us and we're part of your daily routine. But sometimes, you get access to those people who want to listen to our short form content. You want to get access to see, hey, what are these like little 60-second bits that we use in our show that we can put out to a whole new audience. And I think that's a really cool thing what we're doing right now.
It is. You want to know something fun for folks who may not know? I mean, I've also done a lot of sports talk in my day, but you are always shooting for when you're doing, and I got coached by the folks at ESPN Radio on this, 6 minutes is what you want your listener to stay for, because then you win the quarter hour. And especially in a market that, if you're familiar with the people meter, that's the new way of listening now. And it upset all the books because you no longer fill out a little diary in the bigger markets. You wear this little gizmo on your belt and it actually listens to the radio stations because there's a signal encoded in it. And so it knows what you're listening to. So if you get 6 minutes, you win that quarter hour, and that is a victory. That is what we're shooting for. And yet here are Robyn and I bringing you, half-hour shows that sometimes, I will say this, and compliments to Robyn, because Robyn is the one who does distill it into those little 60-second clips. That is all Robyn all the time. So great job.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's get right back into this, Tom, our conversation about those 5 areas that Utah Hockey Club needs to address heading into their inaugural season, because there are a lot of things we can learn still from their last year of Arizona and even a couple years past. Because there's, again, every team needs some improvement, no matter who you are. Even if you're a Stanley Cup caliber team, you still always need areas of concern and still need improvement. With Utah, they're in a situation where they're in a rebuild still, right? They're in a rebuild still from those Arizona days, and so the areas are just a little bit more prominent. One of the things, go ahead.
I was just going to recap. So we've already talked about power play. We've talked about penalty kill. So both sides of the special team coin. We've talked about discipline being a big one coming in here. So I don't know if you want to go ahead and lead off. I know you were just about to launch into a topic, but I just wanted to recap in case you missed Monday's show.
Absolutely. So if you didn't get a chance to, you can go ahead and listen back to that, and we'll still be here. But I kind of want to piggyback a quick second off of kind of like a little bit like either a side note or like a whole additional thing off of that discipline bit, Tom, because here's the thing. It was an issue in the 2022-23 campaign, and it became the same issue in the 23-24 campaign for the Arizona Coyotes. And it was specifically one penalty that they took way too many of. And that was too many men on the ice penalties. A fundamental issue, Tom, that can really simply be addressed, but for some reason, they kept making that same mistake over and over and over again. Like, what are you doing at that point? That 100% needs to be addressed.
So that is an excellent segue. I was actually going to leave this point for last, but you're just throwing it up there for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take a big old swing at this. Coaching needs to be better, because that is mental, that is discipline, that is paying attention, and that is on coaching. And some people hearing me say this are probably, oh my God, Tom is saying that Andre Tourigny is a terrible coach. I'm not saying that.
No.
But I am saying that it needs to improve, because somewhere in there, the communication is getting lost, whether it's player to player, whether it's knowing your assignments, whatever it is. There has to be a better way of communicating that to the players. That responsibility lies with the coaches. So I'm not saying that, and look, every coach is going to get outcoached at some point.
Yeah.
Every coach is going to outcoach someone at some point. But the team culture comes down from the GM to the coach into the locker room. And so if there is that little bit of loosey-goosey in there, if there's that little bit of things aren't tight, things are not quite being communicated properly, that's not on the players. That is on the coaching staff. And I think that is a big thing that needs to improve this year. And I agree with you. There's nothing more frustrating than a too many men on the ice penalty. I don't care when you take it. There's never a good reason to take that penalty.
And I think, too, the most frustrating thing about all that, and that's the reason why I brought it up, because it segued perfectly from that discipline bit, is sometimes that too many men happens at the most inopportune time. It's like the Coyotes were coming back. It's like, oh, they might be coming back from a 3-1 deficit in the game, and they're so close. The momentum is theirs, and then 2 minutes left in the game, and they take a too many men penalty, and all that momentum is gone.
Yeah, it is. It's a killer. It's a crusher, because it's a mistake penalty. It's not a preventing a scoring chance. It's not a, took away what could have been, a goal. It is an oops, a correctable oops every time. To me, there's never a reason to take too many men on the ice. I know it happens, but no.
I know the same thing too. Like even it's even more so. Like I've got a whole different thought on delay of game penalties. It's a whole different situation, because sometimes, like even like people can make an argument, oh, puck deflection, whatever. Even then, whatever it might be, like. But with too many men, it's like there's got to be a situational awareness as you mentioned, when it comes to the coaching, but also still the players paying attention. Make sure that your guy is within that area of zone that allowable to get on the ice versus off the ice, whatever. It's got to be. There's got to be that line of communication better.
And the coaches are the ones calling out the lines, telling which D pair is up next, which forward line is up next. You have to constantly be monitoring the matchups if that is the way you're going to coach and the way you're going to proceed, or you have to be trying to work those in your favor. But you have to communicate that clearly so that I know, Robyn, if you're coming off the ice and I'm replacing you in the same wing, I have to know that when you get within 6 feet of the bench, I can go. But I can't have the guy next to me also jumping on, who also is on that same wing, because they thought their line was up. So again, it's communication, pure and simple. And so I think that's got to be better from that standpoint. And to kind of wrap up all of this back into a coaching talking point, actually, you know what? Why don't we grab a break and then I will wrap it up into a coaching point.
Yeah, I will do that right after this.
All right. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search. Match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. So ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agreed Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, we can jump back into this here, talking about the coaching standpoint of its discipline, its communications. We can go back to talking about the penalty kill. That's also coaching, and this is a coaching staff thing. This is not just on one guy, right? I mean,
No.
power play is different, penalty kill is different, special teams is different, development is different, but that's all coaching. Player development is another area where I think they're doing a good job bringing the guys along. All of this has to be improved this year. And that is part of the growing pains as well. I mean, Andre Tourigny is a guy who's still learning himself as an NHL head coach, and that's okay.
Coming in from juniors, and I think that's we need to remind of is like he was hired straight out of the Canadian Hockey League, right, out of the major juniors.
Which some guys make that jump a little quicker than others, but okay.
I mean, he made that jump pretty well too, though. I will have to give him that. You have to give him that credit. He transitioned really well from a CHL coach to an NHL coach. But there are still those areas of improvement still. You know, as you could say for really any NHL coach, any newer NHL coach.
Well, the knowledge base grows just with experience. Paul Maurice, just to pick a name out of a hat, obviously has a massive NHL knowledge base as a head coach. He's been doing it for a long time in a couple of different places. Maurice just has probably seen everything by now, and that is to his advantage. John Cooper has won Stanley Cups and has been an NHL coach for a while now. You get your team over the hump, and then you even learn from doing that. But again, it's just, and I appreciate the patience of the organization. Let me say this, the patience of the organization for allowing those people to grow in their positions instead of just saying, you know what, it's been a bad 2 years, get out. That is not what this organization's about, thankfully, because I am a firm believer in you need consistency to build on. If you keep changing the message every year and a half, you're in trouble.
Well, take a look at this, in the months leading, but in the months before, or even the year before, Arizona officially announced that they were moving to Utah, becoming the Utah Hockey Club. A lot of that coaching staff was extended. It's like, all right, we're going to have you for another couple seasons because we feel like you guys are doing a great job leading to where you should be. Again, there's still those areas of improvement. I'm pretty sure that they're working on that. And that's the reason why Andre Tourné has a pretty good supporting cast. I feel like that supporting cast still needs some improvement. I was taking a look at some of the coaches out there who have been helping Tourney the last couple of seasons, Tom. And I want to point out this one specifically because it kind of ties into what we were saying earlier, especially on Monday when it comes to that special teams. One of the coaches that came in, my full expectation was that this coach would be like, again, this was a little bit somewhat, I guess I'll admit, dumb on my part for assuming that one coach could, quote, fix it all. But I had an expectation when John Madden, not that guy, John Madden came in to be that coach for Arizona at the time. It's like, okay, I had at the time I had the host of Locked on Sharks come on and tell me about what Madden did with the San Jose Sharks and the special teams, and I was like, okay, cool, we're gonna get that in Arizona. We did not get that. So again, I'm not trying to dig on John Madden at all. I think he's a fine coach. He's still done a decent job in some areas, but there are still those lacking bits too. Again, that goes for a lot of the other supporting cast. They're great, and the reason why they're extended is because they're great, but they still had some lingering issues.
Well, and consider coaches surprisingly get a lot better when the talent around them changes for the better. All of a sudden, you're a much better coach when you plug a guy into your system and he's a better player to begin with. And I'm not disparaging last year's defensive core, but I am saying this year's is better. So to me, by adding Marino, by adding Sergachev, and even Ian Cole, and it's interesting. I've seen some depth chart projections. Two things which I think are dangerous depth chart projections that I completely disagree with on the defense. Number one, and we've talked about this, Sergachev and Durzi probably are not going to live on the same pair. I don't know why they have them listed together on the top pair. I just can't see it happening. Number two, any depth chart that starts Ian Cole off in a 3-4 spot worries me. He's going to be in a 5-6. He's a veteran guy. He's going to log some minutes. He can still chew some minutes, but he will be a better player in a 5-6 role than he would in a 3-4, just because he'll be fresher with 14 minutes, 13 minutes of ice a night, and he'll be able to go out there and take the occasional extra shift you need him to, as opposed to logging 17 and then trying to double shift him. It makes a huge difference.
It really does make a huge difference. And I feel like that's just kind of, it's all part of the growth process, right?
And they're growing and getting better. Defensively, they're better this year. They are inarguably a better team defensively this year. So that is going to make them better. But now, and watch how all these threads weave through everything we've been talking about here in the first part and a half of this podcast series. Better defensively makes you better on the penalty kill. Better defensively is fewer shots against, is more patience and more time 5-on-5. Then it makes you better on power plays. Why? Because you're controlling more of the play 5-on-5. You're probably drawing more power plays then, as opposed to being shorthanded. If you improve the discipline, and if you have players that can skate and move their feet, they take less of the hooking, holding, just the garbage penalties where you don't want to keep up. If it's a lack of effort penalty, I do not like that penalty. If you're working hard and you have to pull a guy down on a scoring chance, okay, fine, we kill that penalty every time. But if it's because you weren't moving your feet, because you got caught out of position, because you did something you weren't supposed to do 30 seconds before that, or your defensive partner got caught out and then everything goes squirrely from there, like those are the things, and that's discipline. All of those need to tie into one another. And as you get better parts and pieces in place, as you get more experience, as you improve, all of those things gradually begin to improve along with it. And that's what separates Stanley Cup winners from teams that just make the playoffs from teams that are on the outside looking in.
100%. I want to use that thought, those last thoughts that you just gave, Tom, as a way to segue into kind of the last bits of this conversation as we're talking about those areas of improvement. We'll do that right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little bit different for you. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday tickets from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime you like. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook.
That's an amazing offer.
Yeah, right?
That's amazing. I'm a Bills fan. I'm out of market, right? And by the way, that's 2 days before my birthday. So everybody, September 24th, shop early, shop often. I accept cash. But no, seriously, like that's a tremendous offer. That is great coverage of the NFL right there. So good for you, FanDuel. I'm in. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's get to the final bits of these areas of improvement. And I want to piggyback a little bit of what you just said, Tom, and kind of put it into another thought. An issue that has been in my mind since we started recording this first thing. I was like, you know what? This is something that I want to talk. I feel like we should talk about because it does have to deal with these bad defensive reads, the bad discipline, almost all what we've been talking about, kind of getting lumped together in one. And we're talking about these neutral zone turnovers that turn into it just turns into a odd man rush the other way, where the opposing team now all of a sudden gets these like 3-on-1 opportunities out of nowhere and from the neutral zone of all places, Tom. And all of a sudden, high danger scoring chances are almost surefire goals because there's no way, as no matter how good Connor Ingram and Kurove Milka might be that night, a 3-on-1 opportunity is gonna be really hard, just real hard to get yourself out of.
So speaking as a goaltender, I, number one, never really appreciated when my teammates would give up those opportunities, but I was always excited by them. It's an adrenaline rush and you always want to make the save to be the hero, but it's very tough to do. Mm-hmm. And that is, again, got to be better coached on that, about when to jump, when not to jump. And it's player understanding, it's read and react, it's situational awareness. It's hockey IQ is what I'm talking about here. So as you get players with better hockey IQ, you should be cutting down on those types of mistakes. The other thing too, can we just rewind it back to discipline? Because players, let's just say you're an offensive defenseman and man, you want to be involved in every rush. You just want to be up the ice. You want to take the puck. You want to lug it ahead. You want to make the sweet dish to your teammate, cross ice sauce, boom, back of the net, right? You want to be that kind of hero. You just can't do it every time. No. And you have to be able to read and react to the situation. You have to not only know where your D partner is, you have to know where your forwards are, but where the other team is. And I think that is something the Utah Hockey Club is going to have to develop in greater quantity this year, is that awareness of being able to make the smart play, the right decision, and cut down on those odd man situations.
Having that positional awareness, know where every one of your teammates is on the ice. If And again, let's say in theory that they really did want to put in, like Jersey and Sergachev together. Again, you and I have already voiced our thoughts of it shouldn't really be. But like I said, we also said earlier that they probably will try it. If you are, let's say, Sean Jersey, and you're noticing Sergachev jumping up on that breakout, be a little bit more delayed on that breakout. That way, if a turnover were to happen, at least you are ready. At least you are ready. Focus on getting those together. Like you want to make sure, like I said, be aware where everybody is at all times. And that's what it's a simple thing, right? It's a simple thing of positional and offensive awareness. And even on the other side, on defensive awareness too. Know where everybody is. That way, like where are you gonna do? You're gonna collapse. You're gonna be staying your part. If you're a winger on your point, if you're a defense, where are you? Are you closer to the slot by the crease, protecting the net? Where are you? Make sure you know all those reads on where everybody else is too.
And again, that's just, you work on those things in practice. You drill it in so that it becomes muscle memory. A lot of times you don't want players to have to think about that. You just want them to know where they're supposed to be. Breakdowns occur. And, hockey, especially now, is much more of a fluid game. Back in the 70s, 80s, it was a stay in your lane. If you were on the left wing, you stayed on the left side. If you were in the right wing, you stayed on the right side. You stayed in your lane. It's not like that anymore. There's a lot of weaving. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of cycling, circular motions, the shifting of the momentum from one side to the other. It's kind of like watching soccer when you see one team will cross the ball completely to the other side of the pitch and try to reverse out the attack and try the other side. It's the same idea, just a little smaller, where they're basically, hey, this is a fluid game now, and players can play in a lot of different positions with variations on those positions. So I think that, again, as the team grows and matures, especially with the younger players, those things the mistakes cut down. The decisions become faster and more well made. I think that that's growing pains, Robyn. That's a lot of what it is.
It really much is. And I kind of want to add to that too, is saying pay attention, because a lot of the younger core, what position that they're playing is center. Let's remember the center is the one that they're the ones that taking, they're those 200-foot players, right? They're the ones that are all over the place. If there's anyone that has to be the most positionally aware, it's those people, right? So they have to increase their awareness. And if you're having somebody, and this kind of goes to a conversation City Everydayers know about this one, Tom, of what we had earlier this off season, is if you're bringing in a guy who is a natural winger on a center, maybe that's not something that they're necessarily talked about, because the wingers are like, okay, these are your kind of like, what you're saying, even kind of like, generally, this is your area. You can jump if you need to, but this is generally your area. For the center, it's like, nope, you got to pay attention to everywhere, because if your winger is crossing over, cover their, you can either cover their spot or be aware of where everybody else is.
Yeah, and that's, I really think that at the end of the day, with Utah bringing in an influx of new players, and younger players kind of stepping up into bigger roles now as they've shed some of the older veteran guys, it's going to require a little bit of patience.
Oh yeah, mistakes will still be made. So a lot of these same mistakes will be made because it is a younger team. I'm accepting that, right? I think you and I are both accepting that. But that's still to be said. I still believe that this team will make all those improvements, all the right improvements going into this season, and the inaugural season of the Utah Hockey Club.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to the continued growth. That's for sure.
Any final thoughts you want to bring off before we close things off?
Yes, they were the second worst face-off team in the NHL last year. 45.1% on draws. Buffalo was 45%. They were last.
Yeah, that's got to improve.
Yeah. better in the circle.
And again, those are some things that we'll pay attention to during training camp, right? I'm pretty sure maybe there's going to be maybe Logan Cooley was like, you know what? I'm going to focus on my face-offs.
Well, here's the thing too, is especially neutral zone is where you can bring up your percentage, because I don't think people bear down as much, but in the end zones is where it's the most important to start with possession. Defensively, you're cutting down scoring chances. Offensively, you're increasing scoring chances. So the fact that you're second to last in face-offs just absolutely kills you. You're killing a penalty. You start with a draw win, you have a chance at a clear. You're on the power play. You start with a draw win, you set up the power play right away. Everything leads from winning that initial battle for the puck.
It really does. And I think too, and it goes to what I was mentioning too, it also goes into that positional awareness. If you are a winger and you're watching that face-off, like if you can get the opportunity to kind of get in there, like once the puck is dropped, to kind of be the assist to help make that win possible, I mean, do it.
Yeah, if you know your center's going to tie up, you have to be the third man in. You have to come out with that puck.
You have to, and you have to be ready. If you like ready for. Be ready at any moment for a possible tie, like tie up at the dot and get right into it. Jump in.
That's it. Absolutely.
It really is. But Tom, that's gonna be it for this 2-part episode of a Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I hope everyone liked what you guys heard. We try to get as much content as you guys can. Again, if you did like it, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your shows, including on YouTube, SiriusXM, ad-free on Amazon Music. Starting tomorrow, Tom, from everyone's listening to this, I'm going on a little vacation. There still will be an episode coming out, on Friday and Monday, because we still love you guys. I'm still going to put out some stuff. But anything happens on in news when it comes to immediate news reactions, follow Tom. He'll be the guy. He'll be the one to have those reactions. I will be unavailable. I will be in Minnesota having fun playing hockey. But I'm excited. I can't wait for tomorrow, Tom. I'm already dancing in my seat right here.
It's going to be an awful lot of fun. I'm looking forward to your updates. I can't wait. I hope you have a great time up there. I hope the mosquitoes aren't too big and, no one carries you away. But yeah, have a blast. Enjoy yourself. And it's a cool spot. I've been there a couple of times myself. The building is awesome. Just, it's a very cool experience. So I'm happy for you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Well, once again, thanks everyone for listening to this episode. Don't forget to also be a part of our Insider Text Club. Once again, text us to 801-760-9033. 801-760-9033. We'll guys send you a text back to get signed up, be a part of our text club. Text us one-on-one, access to our mailbag, access to exclusive content. We'll have a lot coming your way as we get closer to training camp and the inaugural season for the Utah Hockey Club. Thanks again once more for everyone for listening to today's episode. We'll see you guys next time.